Data from the National Bureau of Statistics shows that Nigeria's unemployment rate improves to 4.1% in first quarter 2023 based on revised methodology. Nigeria accounts for 82% of Africa's telecom subscriptions, says Nigerian Communications Commission. Nigeria's unclaimed dividends increased from 189 billion naira in December 2022 to 190 billion naira. Plus oil gains 1% in Friday trading. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Musa Abubakar, your guide. Let's begin the program by looking at the economy. The Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, has assured Nigerians that better days are ahead with the implementation of the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Speaking at the two-day retreat of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms in Abuja, Edun said it is the wish of President Tinubu to create jobs, reduce poverty, control micro and macroeconomic policies to create stable environment to attract investors, stabilize the exchange rate and drive the economy to reduce poverty to the lowest level. The minister noted that though removal of fuel subsidy has slowed down the economy, there are interventions put in place to cushion the pains of the reform and correct leakages on subsidy. He reminded the committee members of the president's 30 days deadline to deliver something tangible on the assignment and enjoined them to fast-track the assignment as there was no time to waste. Nigeria's unemployment rate for the first quarter of 2023 dropped to 4.1%, while that of the fourth quarter of 2022 stood at 5.2%. This is based on the revised labor force indicator for the measurement of the country's labor force launched by the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning. Abubakar Atiku Bagudu in Abuja. Muplang Dakok reports that the report is a collaboration of the National Bureau of Statistics and the World Bank. The new indicator, which shows that unemployment for the first quarter of 2023 was 4.1%, is against the previous 33.3% arrived at by the old methodology. The revised report also shows that informal employment stands at 92%, with 12.2% of the population underemployed. Urban unemployment is 5.4%, while rural unemployment is 2.9%.
Close to 75% of Nigerians are engaged in one activity or the other. So these are people, we are people across the country who have demonstrated effort. What sometimes we need more.
This data is giving us proportion of people that are self-employed in Nigeria, not just looking at wage employment.
This kind of data periodically helps government, helps all of us figure out what's going well, what's working well, where the problems are, what kind of interventions are needed, what kinds of policies and programs are needed.
The Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, has revealed that the country accounts for 82% of telecom subscriptions in Africa. Executive Vice Chairman of the Commission, Professor Umar Ambata, who disclosed this at the opening ceremony of the Emerging Technology Forum for the Telecommunications Industry in Abuja, said Nigeria also accounts for 29% of the continent's internet consumption. He said the country is now rated 11th in the world regarding internet penetration and 7th in mobile phone usage. He, however, noted that despite these remarkable metrics, the country's network readiness index is still very low. According to him, Nigeria was ranked 109th out of 131 countries in 2022. Now, BRICS leaders announced historic admission of 6 new countries from next year on Thursday as it seeks to reshape the global order. The BRICS, made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, agreed at their annual summit to make Argentina, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates full members from January 1st, 2024. With this expansion, the GDP of BRICS is now 36% of global GDP and 47% of the world's population.
And it could grow into quite an important body, offering a sort of a wider view of the world than is offered at the moment. But on the other hand, there are dangers, I think, of admitting members like Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, and so on, which could give the organization a kind of hostile anti-Western stance and turn it into like a support group for China and Russia, which I don't think would be a good development.
I'm expecting to see the expansion at this BRICS summit because, nowadays some Western blocs led by the US, they make random sanctions against the developing countries for the sake of their own interest. So I think the developing countries and emerging markets should also work together to cooperate to make their voices heard. The future of the BRICS will be very bright in the future because you can see the GDP of the 5 countries have been increasing, and they are also the fastest growing economies in the world. I think, developing countries should reduce their reliance on dollars in their internal trade. I think, it is a good idea. They should have their own currency to avoid risks in the.
Now, Nigeria, the giant of Africa, was no doubt somehow left out of the BRICS expansion and cooperation yesterday. Ethiopia became the only low-income country in the group. Our attention on the program today is on the BRICS expansion, and our guest is an economist and public affairs analyst, Ni Akisiju. Thank you for coming on the program.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, from the beginning of from the beginning of next year, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Argentina, and UAE, that's United Arab Emirates, and Ethiopia, will join the current 5 members of BRICS. How do you see the development?
Well, it's obvious the seed of a new world order is in the making. Since the fall of the whole Soviet Union, since that time it had been a more or less polar world where the US had taken near dominance across the economy, across military dominance and all that. So we have seen more or less a US and its allies in Britain, in Canada, and generally in the G7, mainly determining the focus and the dimensions of how economy should go, how military should go, and all that. So with the BRICS, there is a new order in the making. There is a prospect of bipolarity. There is the prospect of a new bloc, a new economic bloc, so to speak. That may be alternative. That may be competitive and all that, but what exactly it should be should also be a concern for us. I have been following the BRICS over a time, And I'd also believed that there was going to be another bloc, as speculated at the time by some economists in means, Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria, Turkey, but it's as if I hope it's not still that, but we have BRICS for now, and we are hoping, that it will not. I am hoping that it will not be a hostile we against them kind of thing. You have China, you have Russia that are actually also trying to sustain a form of superior contention with the U.S. The world, as it is evolving, should be more of a collaborative than a hostile bloc thing, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Well, what does this country stand to benefit? And what is Nigeria actually missing out in this partnership? Because it seems like there's talk about investment in different sectors and economic partnership.
Yeah, well, BRICS is mainly as it is constituted now. It's mainly an economic bloc. And the whole idea is to find a way of intervening within the framework of development. And that framework, as it is, will be different from the framework of the G7. Anybody who has been following international economy will know that the international framework as applied, by the IMF, International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, and other Bretton Woods institutions, have a linear and perhaps closed-circuit kind of framework in applying developmental interventions to emerging markets and developing countries. So the BRICS is trying to provide an alternative framework that will be more equitable, more involving, and of course more considerate of the local economy, local culture, and all that. So to a large extent, the model that the BRICS bloc is trying to evolve is one that rather than being the oversight kind of model, where you have the IMF, for instance, come here for the Article 4 and more or less give direction and give commands. The BRICS model would be more inclusive, would be more consultative, and perhaps even more allowing in terms of input from domestic economic managers. And yes, they also have the development banks that will also intervene, just as we have the World Bank. And it is not even as we evolve. It's not going to just be exclusively for BRICS members. I don't think Nigeria is losing much for now. The truth of the matter is, the last I heard is Nigeria had not formally, sought the membership of that body, and this last 15th edition of its conference, of its meeting, was more or less an opportunity for the BRICS to open up its conduct and, of course, the attraction of that body to other countries. And that was why they invited a number of countries. I think they invited up to 40 countries, and that's why the conference was actually named BRICS Plus. It's also a way of allowing countries to observe the conduct of the business of the meeting, and, of course, provide marketing points, for BRICS, as it were.
Okay, BRICS say they want to use their national currency more instead of the dollar. Don't you think it's an advantage for Nigeria to take at this point in time, looking at our naira-dollar issue, or the valuation of the naira, which is not actually favoring us in the country?
It's an idea in the making. You just don't create a currency, especially one that has reserve quality or reserve feature. The dollar is a reserve feature. It's a transactional currency with more than 80 years behind it. So it would take another or an alternative reserve currency to grow over time to contend with dollars. Don't also forget that, yes, the BRICS country have quite a large percentage of trading amongst themselves, but the larger percentage of transactions and tradings is still recorded outside that block. So the dollar will still be dominant, but we expect that, of course, over time, there will be a growth of an alternative reserve currency, but it's not going to be in the short term, perhaps in the medium to long term. Yes, it's important to have a competitive currency, such that you can have the convenience, of transaction as different from the other one. So every economic space has its own features, and as it were, a particular currency at the point in time may be more favorable for transaction than the others, and that is the benefit, or rather that is the privilege we don't have as at this moment, where either you like it or not, when you are transacting international business, it has to be with the dollars.
But in this case, they are saying they can trade amongst themselves using local currencies, yes, instead of the dollar.
I think between Russia and China, that has commenced. Russia, China, especially since after the Ukraine-Russia conflict, where the U.S. and its allies went after the assets, of Russia in their respective countries. Russia found a way of dealing with its own friendly countries, China especially, and India, to trade using local currencies. But still, there are still a lot of adjustments to be made. Even now, it's the quantum of those transactions are not up to 60% of the total volume of trade. Russia is involved in. So it has processes. It has to grow in terms of acceptability, in terms of convertibility, because that is the most important aspect of international transaction. If the currency you are dealing with is not convertible easily, it has restricted transactional values. So all those needs to be built over time. We believe, I personally believe that it is an idea that is due, but again, in the economic sphere, these are things you don't also rush.
Okay. Well, I have lots of questions here, and I'm afraid we can't really exhaust it on this program. Well, Vice President Kashim Shettima said that the economic reform and diplomatic alliances will attract investments and partnership to Nigeria. How do you see that happening? Well, let's hear your thought on that.
Yeah, I think already there's a form of momentum across the world, especially the first world, as you put them, G7, the second world. There is a competition now amongst them to see how they can also enlarge or expand their sphere of influence. In Russia, China, we have seen the Road and the Belt Summit, where every year China invites mostly all developing countries to it, and there's an exchange of possible projects that can be funded in those countries. The same thing with Russia, the same thing with France and all that. So there is a build-up on trying to reach out to developing countries like Nigeria. Okay. And I think that what the Vice President is doing, it's a simple economic diplomacy, expanding the sphere, of possible interventions. We need like those kind of interventions as it were.
We're actually running out of time. Well,
all right. So,
thank you very much, Mr. Nia Kisuju. Thank you for coming on the program.
A pleasure as always.
Now, moving on, the remarkable performance of the Nigerian Stock Exchange of 5.23% surge in market capitalization on the first day of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's assumption in office was driven by optimistic anticipation of market reforms. This was stated by the Director General Securities and Exchange Commission, Lamido Yuguda, at the outcome of the second meeting of the Capital Market Committee for the year 2023. Yuguda highlighted the positive impact of of the market and urged capital market to lend its helping hand to the current economic reforms, adding that the market must make sacrifices to help drive the economic transformation that will change the nation's fortunes for the better.
The chairman lamented the trend of companies choosing to delist from the capital market. Emphasizing the significance of this matter, he affirmed that the SEC actively collaborates with the exchanges to enhance approval procedures aiming to render listing processes more streamlined, more efficient, and economically viable.
He also explained that as at December 2022, unclaimed dividends rose from 189 billion naira to 190 billion naira presently. The Commission says the e-dividend mandate committee has provided updates on projects to enhance the e-dividend portal in collaboration with the Institute of Capital Market Registrars and the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System. He also highlighted efforts to strengthen the market's attractiveness, including streamlining listing processes, advocating for smoother issuances, and encouraging private equity involvement in the infrastructure sector. And now to energy. Oil prices jumped more than 1% on Friday as the dollar firmed ahead of an eagerly awaited speech by the head of the U.S. Federal Reserve for hints on the outlook for interest rates. Brent crude rose 97 cents or about 1.2% to $84.33 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was up 93 cents, also roughly 1.2% at $79.98. Both benchmark rose by more than $1 earlier in the session. How other commodities trading around the globe? Let's see prices. And now to capital market trading, closed positive on the Nigerian Stock Exchange to cap the week. The NGX all-share index appreciated to 65,558.91 basis point. Market capitalization advanced to 35.880 trillion naira. Investors exchanged 356 million shares valued at 4.233 billion naira in 6,569 deals. For a review of stock market activities across the globe, Bosade Abel is standing by. Hello, Bosade. It's over to you.
Thank you very much, Musa. Hello and welcome to the Global Market Review. European markets were cautiously higher in early trading on Friday as investors await signals from Federal Reserve officials on the likely path of monetary policy. DAX rose 0.16%, FTSE 0.30%, and CAC 40 of France also appreciated 0.42%. Asia market fell across the board as investors prepared for signals on U.S. monetary policy from Central Bankers Committee at the Jackson Hole meeting on Friday, including a speech by U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. Japan Nikkei 225 tumbled 2.06%, leading losses in Asia, closing 31,622.28. The Hang Seng Index also dipped 0.00% at 3,082.41, and the Hang Seng Index also was on the loss at 0.51% across 18,119.39. U.S. stock futures rose Friday as Wall Street looked towards Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell's Jackson Hole speech. Futures tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average ticked up 79 points, S&P 500 0.24%, and the Nasdaq Composite also topped 0.13%. While Africa markets closed mixed, with South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 and Namibia's overall index posting gains, while were on the loss, while Tunisia's Tunidex also depreciated 0.00%. That's the global market review. Over to you, Musa.
Well, thank you, Bossade. And as it, Business Express returns Monday by 3 p.m. Enjoy your weekend.